Hey guys, it's Zeon, the realest motherfucker in the Dragon Ball community, and I am back with another Dragon Ball Super review. And this time I am covering episode 20. Much like last week's episode, if you saw Resurrection app, then you really aren't missing much. Frieza is resurrected, Goku and Vegeta train, Jaco shows up to warn them about Frieza coming back, and then Frieza shows up, end episode. But unlike last week's episode, there are a few key differences worth noting. First off, Takuma's alive, which is a big difference from the movie, because in the movie, Frieza just up and fucking kills him. Here, he cripples him. Now, we already know that there's going to be reasons for this. If you've read the spoilers, you know them already. I'm not going to ruin it for those who haven't seen them, but there's definitely a reason for Takuma not being dead in the TV version. Another big difference worth noting is Goku and Vegeta's training. We get to see a little bit more of that, and we get some new dialogue here. Whis telling them to try and keep their auras inside of them, keep their ki within them, and keep it from spilling out. I was assuming spilling out is like, when they have their auras flared up in traditional Dragon Ball style, which is probably why the Super Saiyan forms burn so much ki to begin with. After this, they start sparring again, and when they clash fists, there's a spark of blue aura, clearly hinting at SSGSS, which is really nice because it gives the impression that they are going to cover what SSGSS is, and how exactly they're going to end up obtaining it in this series. Another change made was whenever Beers blows up a planet after waking up, Whis does not do his temporal redo. Instead, he just kind of looks over at it and says, I guess there's no need for a redo. Which I really like this. It's a nice little subtle nod to his ability, which is setting it up so that way it doesn't come completely out of left field whenever they do it at the end of this arc. But it isn't just the blatant Chekhov's gun that it was in the movie. Because in the movie, it's just like, oh yeah, I can do this temporal redo thing. Put a pin in that because it's going to be relevant in the movie later. Here, it's just subtle reference. That's all you need. Really appreciated that. And the only other big or major difference between the arc and the movie in this episode is when Jaco arrives at Capsule Corp, instead of meeting Dr. Briefs, he meets with Goten and Trunks first. And for the most part, I really like this change. I find the interactions between Goten and Trunks with Jaco a lot more interesting than the ones between Jaco and Dr. Briefs. And Jaco gets to make a whole bunch of little nods to his manga. Talking about how it's not a mask, it's his real face, and it's not tights, it's his actual skin. Which are pretty much lines pulled directly from the manga. Something I don't approve of is Goten and Trunks still being little fucking kids. It has been at least a year and 4 months since Battle of Gods, and they're still goddamn kids! They have not changed a single bit since the Majin Buu arc. Hell, they might even be shorter. This is starting to become bothersome to me. And to anyone who wants to throw out the, well, they're Saiyans. Saiyans age slowly, blah blah blah. That rule only applies to full-blooded Saiyans. We've seen Gohan's entire development. He aged like a normal goddamn kid. And we've also seen future Trunks as a teenager. He was like this tall, not this tall. It's just pretty goddamn ridiculous and stupid that by this point in the series, Kuririn's gotten a redesign, Marin's gotten a redesign, Bulma's gotten a redesign, but Goten and Trunks, exactly the same. Haven't changed a single bit since the Majin Buu fights. But really, that's my only major gripe with this episode. Beyond that, my only other things I complain about is Jaco not knowing who Beers is, or at least thinking that Beers is a myth and not an actual living person. You would think being part of the Space Patrol, that would be something he would know for a fact, considering other people know for a fact he exists, like Freeza and the Saiyans. The only other thing I can really nitpick is, why is it Jaco that's delivering this news? This really seems more like a job for Kaio than Jaco. Is Kaio so shitty at his job he didn't know he's one of the most powerful tyrants in his quadrant, being resurrected on Earth, and then training himself to the point where he was more powerful than Super Saiyan God Goku? You'd think he would notice that, but he didn't. So now we had to have Jaco show up an hour before Frieza hits planet Earth and be like, Frieza's head your way, got 1,000 guys. He plans on killing all of you. Not a major issue, but still one that kind of is irksome. Because it really feels like the only reason they didn't have Kaio do this is so that way they can insert Jaco into the main Dragon Ball series. And it's just a sloppy attempt to retroactively fit in a character that Toriyama just recently created. But beyond that, I really don't have any complaints. Yes, there is the pacing issue that people are bringing up. That in this episode, at the halfway point, it just does a 4-month time jump. I don't really have a problem with this. I mean, the only thing that we really need to know is how Goku and Vegeta became SSGSSs. That's really it. I know a lot of people want to see Frieza's training, like, what the hell was he doing in that 4 months? Does it really matter? Really, it doesn't. I mean, you don't hear people clamoring, we didn't know what happened during the 3 months that Goku and Piccolo and Gohan trained for the artificial humans. And you don't see people lambasting the manga for completely skipping the 1 year of training that everyone had in preparation for the science. So why is everyone so fixated on Freeza's training? He did some crazy bullshit training, got super goddamn powerful from it because he's some sort of crazy mutant space prodigy, and during that time frame he unlocked some sort of new transformation. Now, I do want them to explain the transformation, how he was able to figure it out, how he tapped into it, what triggered it, but as far as his actual training, I couldn't give a shit less. You could tell me he did Taibo training for 30 minutes a day during that 4-month period, I'd be like, yeah sure, why not? It's Freeza, who gives a shit? He's super OP naturally, so yeah, a little bit of training makes him even more OP. Whatever. All this is just a ridiculous plot device to just make him on tier with everybody else. People really need to stop freaking out and worrying about it. So yeah, honestly, the pacing I don't have that much of an issue with. I do, however, expect them to go back and explain the SSD-SS form, how they obtained it, how it works. I'm assuming they're going to say that for when Goku shows up and actually shows off the form, because I imagine they don't want to spoil it before the fight. They want it to be the big reveal. So after they reveal it, then they can go back, do a flashback where Goku explains how he obtained this form, or maybe wait until Vegeta shows it off, and then have him explain how he obtained the form, or how they both obtained it. Either way, I'm going to give them the benefit of that, but they're just holding off until the reveal to explain it. And the same thing goes for the Golden Frieza form. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. If I'm right, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, sure, cool. Glad to know how that works. But overall, this episode is okay. Not terrible, not great. That's okay. It was a solid episode that did what it needed to do to move the plot forward. And that wraps up everything I had to say for this review. Till next time, guys, Zeon, out.